without any further delay, let me get to a guy who comes in on Fridays, and somebody thanking you for your fine work, John. Yeah. This guy comes and goes on a rainbow. He writes for the Marina Times. He's the culture blaster, Michael Snyder, everybody. Hi, Michael Snyder.
Hey, good morning, everyone. How's everybody holding up with all the holiday frenzy? I'm curious, Yeah. I was at a shopping mall last night, and contrary to what they tell you, there is no sanity clause. I mean, it was nuts out there.
It was pretty weird, huh?
Oh, my God. The crowds, people jockeying for presents and stuff.
Yeah.
Let me get this out of the way. Although I understood the possibility of suitors with health care coming and wooing him away, I was surprised to get the news of our fabulous producer, John Daly, moving on to another gig. Yeah. Johnny, we hardly knew ye.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
I'm kidding. Always prepped and professional, yet always easygoing and offhandedly funny. You're a funny guy. John's been a pleasure to work with on my Friday drive-bys. John, I wish you the very best at the new job and on into the future.
Thank you, Mike.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Well, that said, I'm ready for the reign of Albert II, the OG and the OP, original producer, back for another run at the championship. I'll catch you next week, Commish. Speaking of sports, with Jimmy G sidelined, the Niners went to Purdy from Pretty.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
How about that?
They did okay. I'm a little filled with trepidation about facing the GOAT on Sunday, but I'll be watching Niners.
Trepidation to ding word, of course.
Niners over the vile Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Should we get to movies, Mark Thompson?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okie dokie. Empire of Light is going to kick things off. At first, I thought that Empire of Light was going to be the British equivalent to Cinema Paradiso. By the way, that's not Cinema Take a Hiko. That's an entirely different thing.
Okay.
No, Cinema Paradiso is the Italian feature film from director Giuseppe Tornatore that reflected on his childhood love of the movies and the power of cinema to uplift and inspire us. And filmmaker Sam Mendes centers most of the action in Empire of Light at a slightly shabby movie palace in an English seaside town during the 1980s, though it certainly tries to play upon the magic of the movies and the escapism and joy one can find on the big screen in a darkened theater. Empire of Light is more about the melodrama surrounding its main character, a troubled middle-aged plain Jane named Hillary, whose job is as a theater manager. And it's also about her relationship with the facility's big boss and other staffers. That's the entirety of her life, which is summarily shaken up when she finds herself drawn to Stephen, a young, ambitious black co-worker. Hillary is played by Olivia Colman, and the Oscar winner throws herself into the role wholeheartedly and with no vanity, as you would expect. There are moments of wit and charm and earnest and accomplished performances by a group of reliable vets, including Colin Firth as the theater's head honcho, and Toby Jones as its longtime projectionist, and a few up-and-comers, particularly Michael Ward as Stephen, who is the young co-worker that she becomes smitten with. And maybe I expected too much from Mendes. This is the guy who brought us such resonant movies as American Beauty, Road to Perdition, 1917, and he did a couple of Bond films, one of the better of the Daniel Craig 007 adventures, Skyfall. I'm guessing that Mendes, who directed his own script here, plumbed matinee memories from his youth in the UK, and he wanted to add some social context, specifically the groundswell of racism from right-wing factions in Great Britain during the 80s. And damn, the finished product has this glorious, burnished glow to it, courtesy of the great cinematographer, award-winning cinematographer Roger Deakins, and it does serve as another showcase for Coleman's skills. She delivers the goods throughout, but a mix of movie palace nostalgia, star-crossed May-December romance, psychological angst, and racial strife didn't ultimately add up to a satisfying or heartwarming experience. Empire of Light is in theaters starting this weekend.
Wow. Seems like you liked it, but with a qualified like, maybe.
Yeah, I just thought it veered toward melodrama too much. And again, it tried to do too much. It was as if there were multiple movies vying for attention in this thing.
Yeah. Okay, what else do you have?
Speaking of weighty performances, Brendan Fraser is getting well-deserved accolades for his work in The Whale as a broken, mega-obese English teacher whose health, physical and mental, is less than optimum. In fact, this tragic, nearly immobile figure teaches online classes from amid the clutter of his hovel, while the clock, so to speak, is ticking. Fraser is beloved from his early days acting. He was George of the Jungle and Encino Man, and his recent portrayal of the doomed race car driver Cliff Steele in one of my favorite shows, the Misfits superhero series Doom Patrol on HBO Max, soon to debut its fourth season on HBO. I mean, that stuff is all first rate, but in ways it seemed like his star had waned. He'd been off the scene for a while. Doom Patrol and now The Whale are bringing him back into prominence. This catapults him into another echelon as a thespian, his work in The Whale. And to be honest, watching
Echelon and thespian both ding.
watching The Whale is an unrelentingly wrenching experience as Fraser's character wallows in filth and misery, even as he's trying to sort of desperately reconnect with his estranged and bitterly angry teenage daughter.
Estranged.
Played by Sadie Sink of Stranger Things. And he's also ignoring the advice of his frustrated and warm-hearted caregiver, played by Hong Chow, who was so good in the recent dark comedy, The Menu. Adding to the quality of the cast, you get the superb British actress Samantha Morton as the teacher's ex-wife. So The Whale is directed by Darren Aronofsky, the guy who did Black Swan, and it's directed in kind of a sticky, claustrophobic style that reminded me of Aronofsky's breakthrough movie, Requiem for a Dream, and he shows a little affection for his damaged protagonist, and that's kind of recalling his character study, The Wrestler. So there is an occasionally ponderous and kind of leaden feel to Samuel Hunter's script based on his play, and it burdens The Whale in places, but you know, it still has massive impact thanks to the focus on its lead. The prosthetics on Fraser are disconcertingly realistic, it's as if the already stocky actor had pulled a Brando, maybe, and gained a shocking amount of weight for the part, but he didn't. And ultimately, the true wonder here is Fraser's ability to kind of embody the humanity and the decency within this sad, sweaty, corpulent figure. He'll move you and may very well leave you drained and bereft by the end of The Whale. It's in theaters.
Wow. Ponderous, I would ding. Leaden, I would ding. Opulent, no. Yeah. And
it was corpulent, Mark.
Corpulent, sorry. Yeah,
ding the right dingable word, please.
Corpulent, was that with that
I beg
ding.
of you.
And then the last, bereft, I will ding. So it sounds like you liked it, though it's kind of a bummer, is what it sounds
It's a major bummer, and I liked it more than Empire of Light. I think it's a better film, but it does have its moments of... It's overheated moments, especially apt since you consider the character. Let's move on, though. Emancipation is the first movie starring Will Smith to be released since a certain little brouhaha at the Oscars. And interestingly enough, when I asked the publicist if I could sit in the press section at the screening of Emancipation, she slapped me. Just kidding. I'm kidding. She's wonderful.
I get it because of Will Smith.
Yeah, of course. Anyhow, Emancipation was inspired by the real pictures of an escaped civil...
Thank you very much.
That's Will Smith. Okay,
that is him.
Yeah.
It was inspired by real pictures of an escaped Civil War era slave named Peter that showed the damage he suffered from whippings and beatings delivered on a regular basis by his quote-unquote owners. These photos back in the, the 1860s appeared in Harper's Bazaar and set off a firestorm about the horrors of slavery. Anyway, a Smith's movie, it's a version of Peter, complete with a Creole accent. And this guy is separated from his wife and children and forced with other slaves to build a stretch of railroad tracks for the Confederate Army. Peter wants to get back to his family, and when he hears that Lincoln has signed the Emancipation Proclamation, he waits for his chance to make a break for it and goes on the run, only to be pursued by a dogged slave catcher, played by Ben Foster, in truly villainous fashion. The bulk of Emancipation is the chase through the swamps of Louisiana, with Foster's nasty Mr. Fassel trying to catch Smith's heroic Peter the Runner. Smith and Foster perform to form it's almost like Pac-Man or something. They're chasing one another down in the swamp. Look, Emancipation is well directed in action movie mode by Antoine Fuqua, and it's well shot in kind of faux black and white, dusted with brown and blue monochrome tones, and there are touches of color when a flag or a fire comes into play. But for all the ugliness it puts on display to kind of rightfully remind us of the horrors and evils of slavery, and despite the thrill of the chase, it's nothing particularly groundbreaking and kind of embraces a touch of Hollywood hokum. So here's my Emancipation Proclamation. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Meh. There you go.
Wow. Wow.
It's in theaters, and as of today, streaming on Apple Plus. It's not terrible. All these films are flawed, but
Yeah, Julie in the chat says dogged should be a jing. I don't think it's a ding word. I'll ding it though at Julie's request. But go ahead.
Okay, Hunt, starring and directed by Squid Game's Emmy-winning lead actor Lee Jung-jae, is a smart, complex historical thriller about spies and betrayal set primarily in South Korea circa 1983, when the country was ruled by a fairly repressive regime and was, as usual, experiencing the typically volatile conflict with the even more repressive communist regime in North Korea. And in any case, the respective leaders of South Korea's domestic and foreign intelligence service, played by Young Woo-sung and Lee Jung-jae, are given the task to find and thwart a North Korean mole who is amongst them. And it soon leads to the two branches of the espionage unit investigating one another. Although some of Hunt's geopolitical machinations may be a bit too complex to follow without a cheat sheet, it does kind of draw you in as the two branch directors and their agents go through their paces, and the twists, which ultimately result in a wild, over-the-top climax, are effective, even if it's not in the exalted league of the recent, more film noirish Korean thriller Decision to Leave from the great Park Chan-wook. This is still pretty decent. And again, you got to be interested in this kind of historical espionage. It's in Korean with English subtitles. It's in theaters and also available to stream. It's called Hunt.
Where can I stream it?
The various
Streamers,
VOD platforms. I could rattle off a bunch of names, but we do that all the time.
Rattle off two of them.
Okay, let's. How about Voodoo?
I could tell
Voodoo?
you where it was streamed, but it really would bug us.
Voodoo.
Okay, Voodoo. V-U-D-U.
Maybe. One of the most unique and memorable movies I've recently seen, my favorite of all these films, unabashedly my favorite, has to be E.O. That's E.O. and not Captain E.O.
I'll go
starring.
unabashedly for a ding, please.
It's not the Michael Jackson Captain E.O. It's another E.O. This is an often humorous, sometimes scathing, and ultimately heartbreaking look at the human condition through the eyes of a donkey. Named E.O. E.O. won the jury prize at this year's Cannes Film Festival and is Poland's Oscar submission, and I kind of get it. Forget about the pranks and the lunacy of the Jackass TV series and films. They're nothing compared to the odyssey of a real jackass named E.O., who through circumstance and happenstance and sheer fate journeys through Eastern Europe and down into Italy, encountering all sorts of people, for better or worse, along the way. And though the worst of them may make you despair for the world, the good ones could give you hope, even if some harsh and inevitable truths about our relationships to one another and to other species are revealed during E.O.'s odyssey. E.O. the movie is the work of Polish director and screenwriter Jerzy Skolmanowski, who might also be a donkey wrangler, since E.O. is such a compelling presence on camera. This is the most charismatic donkey I've ever seen. Yeah. By the way, the most recognizable actor in the movie that I suspect has more than a few real people in the cast is the French superstar Isabelle Huppert, playing a small but kind of pungent role. It's in a few different languages, including English, but subtitled. E.O. is in theaters, and I'm sure available VOD at some point, if not already.
All right, so here they are. E.O., you just heard, won the jury prize at Cannes. It's about the donkey, and he really liked it.
I did.
Michael Snyder really got it and really liked it, and this is a pack of films that he didn't love the crew on. Hunt, he said, was decent. It's a North Korean mole they're looking for. It's in Korean with subtitles. It's streaming and also in theaters, done by the guy who was the star of Squid Games. Emancipation, the Will Smith film, as much as it's an important story to be told, Michael felt like it was sort of meh. He didn't feel like there was any new territory being explored there.
Yeah, the action film component is good. But, again, we've been here before. This is not 12 Years a Slave. That was like a head and shoulders better than this.
The Whale, the Brendan Fraser film, where they use the prosthetics and make him super heavy, and it's really a powerful film done by Darren Aronofsky, who's certainly done some powerful films like The Wrestler before. You liked it. It's a downer, it sounds like.
It's an amazing performance, and it's a downer, but there is a little redemption afoot, and, it's definitely worth it for Fraser's performance. And Sadie, it's a great cast. Sadie St. Hong Chow and Samantha Morton lend support, and they don't give bad performances.
That's The Whale, and it's in theaters. And then speaking of great performances, you've got Olivia Colman and a great cast of performers associated with Empire of Light. That's the Mendez directed and written project, but you feel somehow he tried to do too much, and that you felt that Empire of Light kind of missed.
It didn't congeal, but it's definitely beautiful to look at, and again, good performances. Dude, I would just rather watch Wednesday on Netflix, the Addams Family spinoff about the little girl in the family as a teenager at kind of a Hogwarts Academy style school for misfits. Jenna Ortega embodies the Wednesday Addams character. It's very funny, and it's got a little mystery to it.
And that's on Netflix?
That's on Netflix, and I'm just enjoying the hell out of it.
I love that. Congeal is a ding word. I really enjoy having you in. I'd love to talk all day, but we have, sadly, no more time, Michael Snyder. You can read Michael Snyder in the Marina Times. You can see him and hear him here on Fridays. Well, you can hear him here on Fridays. Eventually, you'll be able to see him. He comes and goes on Rainbow. Bye, Michael. Go Niners!
Go Niners!
All right, Niners. Yeah.